Verse 14. When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Notice a few things about this man. So there's a crowd of people. He leaves the crowd. He approaches Jesus, and he kneels before them. So kneeling before him is a sign of surrendering. Most times when you see people pray, what are they doing? Hands and knees, because it's the full attention. It's the submitting oneself to a Lord, to a master. So this is what this person does. Verse 15, the man says, Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. Okay. This boy is possessed by evil spirits. If you do a little research from the other Gospels, we're in Matthew now, but remember there's Mark and Luke that are very similar to Matthew. This boy suffered from many different things. He acted like a lunatic. That was one. The demon prevented the boy from speaking, so he acted crazy. He couldn't talk. At the time, the demon would make him just scream, but not talk, just randomly scream. Then the demon would seize him, put him into convulsions, make him foam from the mouth, grind his teeth, and then to top that off, this guy was being thrown into fire and water. Can you imagine? Like, this is hashtag real life stuff going on right here with this guy. Demon possessed, and this is happening. This is happening. So don't say that Satan or demons don't have power, because they do. Here's the thing though. A lot of people say, well, demon possession, it's really, I don't see it. You know, I'm not walking in the school hall and seeing someone flown against lockers, right? So this stuff isn't as relevant. Here's the thing. Demon possession, yes and amen, still goes on today. Here's the big kicker, and I don't want to step on any toes, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. Demons don't have to possess you guys necessarily for you guys to slip up, right? Okay, if you don't believe that, let's just think this. What if I exit out of my PowerPoint and pulled up every single person in here's Facebook? How would that look? Do we really need to be demon possessed to get a look at that? How would God view that? Okay, here's the other thing. What if you guys told me all your thoughts from the past week? Any sins there? What about your actions? Any lies? Any lusting? So do we really need to be in this room demon possessed in order to get tempted by Satan to do evil things? No. We're all falling short every day. Some of us don't care. That's what worries me. Can you imagine how this father must have felt seeing his son do this? Like, just think about that as a father, like your own son going through this. And so the father is at a desperate position. His son is going through all this craziness. So what does he do? He turns to Jesus. Yeah.
Like, you know how this guy is demon possessed? Can, like, Jesus allow somebody to become demon possessed? Like, get that demon out of him?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jesus, what he was known for besides teaching was healings and taking out the demons. And in fact, we're going to read into that, because here's what verse 16 says. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal them. So this man first takes his son, who's demon possessed, goes to Jesus' disciples. Why? Jesus was up on the mountain. Thanks. Jesus was up on the mountainside. So that's why he didn't go to Jesus first, because he's up on the mountain with Peter and the boys, the remedial class, or the bros, however you want to look at the verses, with Elijah and Moses chilling, right? So they couldn't go to Jesus. Now when we read this, it's easy. What up, bro? How are you? Good, man. We just started. It's getting live in here. Okay. When we read this, it's easy to think, of course they couldn't heal him. They're not Jesus, right? Like, we read about this demon-possessed person and we're like, well, yeah, of course they couldn't heal him, his son, because they're not Jesus. Only Jesus could do that. But does anybody remember what we read in Matthew 10, verse 1?
Is that the one about how
Preach.
there was a demon-possessed guy, and he, like, took the demon out of him and put him in pigs, and then all the pigs went into the water, and then Jesus, all the people sent Jesus away because they thought he was a demon or whatever.
Okay, I'm so glad that you remember that. So glad that you remember that. Here's what this was referencing. Jesus gave his disciples the power to take out demons, to heal. Jesus gave them that power, but they didn't do it here. They didn't do it here. Verse 17. You unbelieving and perverse generation. Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. So he's healed right at that moment. And I just want to talk about how crazy this healing is. So we're in Matthew right now, but remember Mark is a cross reference because it's a synoptic gospel. Let's read into exactly what happens here in more detail. So we have verse 20. So they brought him to Jesus. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately convulsed the boy. He fell to the ground, rolled around, foamed at the mouth. How long has this been happening to him? Jesus asked the father. From childhood, he said. And many times it has thrown him into fire or water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Then Jesus said to him, if you can, everything is possible to the one who believes. Immediately, the father of the boy cried out, I do believe. Help my unbelief. When Jesus saw that a crowd was rapidly coming together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying, you mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. Then it came out. Shrieking and convulsing him violently, the boy became like a corpse, so that many said, he's dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and raised him up, and in fact, he was alive. So this demon is a very serious thing. He gets to this boy, so much so that when Jesus is rebuking him and taking him out, the boy looks dead. The crowd even says he's dead now. But Jesus is like, nah, he's up. Yeah.
Okay. I know this might be a stupid question, but you said that the demon came out of him. Now, is it just like, go floating around the air, or is it like go to somebody else, or is it just like a spirit?
That's a good question. I really can't answer that verbatim. Like Joel brought up, though, when Jesus rebuked demons before, the demon came out and went right into pigs, and then they went off the cliff. So I can imagine it could do something like that, but with Jesus there, it's not going to go into the bro next to him, and then Jesus be like, ah, gotcha again. It's not going to work like that. Where I think it could, I don't know exactly. Great question. Great question. Do you have any input on that? Okay. Okay, Jesus is upset with his disciples here. But why? He calls them perverse, and he's like, how long am I going to put up with you? Why is he upset with them? They didn't help him, exactly. He gave them the power, their unbelief. If the disciples would have just believed that they could have healed them, the power given by Jesus, then the boy could have been healed without Jesus. But here's the thing about Jesus. He realizes, look, these guys don't get it yet. I've told them they have the power. They're not healing. I have to do it myself. Because Jesus knows if he doesn't do it himself, it's not going to get done. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, why couldn't we drive it out? It's always a good thing to ask Jesus. Got a question? Ask Jesus. He kind of answers 100% right all the time, right? So they asked him, hey, well, how come we couldn't do it? He said, because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. This isn't a parable. Jesus is saying, look, your faith, smaller than a mustard seed, one of the smallest seeds on earth. That's how small their faith is. If they had just a little bit more, they could move mountains. But they don't have faith. Their unbelief led them not to heal that boy. This verse 21, if anyone's paying attention that closely, I was going to jump to verse 22. That's because this is in some Bibles and it's not. It says, but this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. So by prayer and fasting comes belief. But the reason why some texts have it and some don't is because this verse is in the portraying of the story in Mark, in the book Mark, but it's not in most of the Matthew texts. Some writers say, well, you can throw it in there because the point needs to be made. Others say, well, it's not necessary because it wasn't originally written in there. So that's why it's in there twice. Okay, ye of little faith. Here's the thing. Jesus has said this to them before. Remember, Jesus walks on water. Peter's like, oh, it's you? And he's fine. And then all of a sudden he starts sinking. Jesus says, oh, ye of little faith. Serving the bread, remember, they're like, yo, we only have a couple fish and loaves. Jesus is like, ye of little faith. I got it taken care of. And then when they said, what clothes shall we wear? Jesus is like, don't worry, I'll take care of you, ye of little faith. Verse 22, Jesus predicts his death a second time. When they came together in Galilee, he said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the third day he will be raised to life." And the disciples were filled with grief. So Jesus is speaking third person. He's like, Son of Man is going to be killed by these people, and then he's going to raise. So he tells them this. They're upset. Jesus wants them to understand what's going to happen, saying, look, this is going to happen. This is the second time he's warned them. This is going to happen, so they're prepared for after he dies and raises from the dead. He wants them to be prepared. So that's why he's reminding them. What happened here? Okay. Filled with grief. Okay, verse 24. After Jesus and his disciples arrived in Capernaum, this is Peter and Andrew's hometown, the collectors of the 2 drachma temple tax came to Peter and asked, "Doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax?" So they go to Capernaum. This is Andrew and Peter's hometown. All of a sudden, tax collectors come up and say, "Hey, doesn't your teacher pay this tax?" Now, why do you think they approached Peter about this? So all the disciples are going, why did they approach Peter?
You said a 2 blunt and
Drama tax? I'm going to get into it exactly here in a couple of slides. Okay, Peter was a tax collector. No, but that's close. You're at least guessing. You're somewhere. You're closer than everybody else. Anybody else? Okay, here's why. He lived there. That was his hometown. So he has to pay taxes, right? And he's the head of his household. Now let's just think about the importance of this. Matthew, the writer of this chapter, was a tax collector. Jesus comes and says, "Follow me." He leaves tax collecting and follow him. Jesus also quotes in the book of Matthew, remember when Jesus is eating with all the sinners? Someone says, "Why do you eat with the sinners, the worst of the worst?" He was eating with tax collectors. He says, it's not the healthy that needs a doctor, but the sick. So these tax collectors, they're sick, corrupt people. They would gyp people out of money. They would cheat people for money. So, but that verse also indicates Jesus spent his time with these people. One of the biggest misconceptions of all Christianity would be this, that Christians should isolate themselves from sinners. We should be right in the middle of sinners. That's how Christianity should be. We should never be in our bubble, in our church, in our little small group, in our Wednesday night Bible study, in our Sunday night creative ministries, on Sunday morning Sunday school. We should never be in these groups, and that's it. Christianity is taking the gospel out, going out to sinners in safe areas, depending on if you're male or female, mixing up with brothers and sisters and teaching them the gospel. If you guys don't go out, if Christians don't go out, how will they know? They won't. That's why we need to go out. This tax, thanks for asking, this tax is not the tax of the Roman government. So you would think, oh, the 2 drachma tax, that must be from the Roman government. It's not that. The Jewish law required annually that anyone over the age of 20 had to pay half a shekel to the Lord. This money was used for the service of tent meetings. So if you're over 20, Jewish law said you had to pay this, half a shekel. That's what you had to pay. Just by living over 20, I don't know what shekel is compared to American dollars. It's not important. They had to pay, thank you. They had to pay tax. So Peter goes, yeah, he does. So they ask him, hey, does your teacher pay tax? Why does he not pay tax? He's like, no, he does. Was Peter right? Some scholars, Bible scholars, because I read a lot about this last night and 2 nights ago, some say, yeah, he was right. Others say, no, Peter just got nervous and said, yeah, Jesus does. Romans 13, it's a chapter in the New Testament, Paul writes, he tells us to obey authorities, no matter what. No matter where your taxes are going to, you got to pay them. Jesus did this even though he knew it was going to thieves. He was obligated to, just like us. Here's the example. We don't pay taxes. Who uses water fountains or tap water out of the faucet? You wouldn't be able to. You'd be doing something illegal if you don't pay taxes for that. How about the police? Emergency comes up. It sounds like a good idea to call them. You're not paying your taxes. Can't legally call them. That's the no. It's important to have a government system. Otherwise, people will be going crazy.
They pay for jails too.
Pay for jails. Lock up the bad guys. When Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. So Peter says yes. Then he goes in the house. Jesus is like, what do you think, Simon? He asks, because remember, Peter, Simon, same name, same person. He asks, from who do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes from? Their own children or from others? So Jesus is saying, look, Peter, who do they collect taxes from? From their own children or other people? From others, Peter answered. Then Jesus goes, then the children are exempt. But so that we may not cause offense, go to the lake, throw out your line, take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours.
So cool.
So, and this is so cool. And here's what Jesus is saying here, because it might be a little confusing. Like, what? Children? Jesus, God, is the father of the temple. Jesus is his son. He's his child. So what Jesus is saying is here, look, my dad, God, he owns it all. This whole temple, he owns it all. I'm his son. Do you think I should pay? Peter's like, no, children should be exempt. Other people should pay. But Jesus is like, look, yeah, you're right, but I'm going to pay it anyway, just so it don't cause any offense. He goes, go fish. Don't worry, first fish you catch, pop open its mouth. That'll cover both you and I. So Jesus paid it. He didn't have to, but he did. He didn't have to, but he did. Just not to cause any offenses. Okay. Any questions about that? Any questions at all? Because we covered a lot. We just
I'm still kind of confused about this whole drachma. Is what you said.
That tax was just for people over the year 20 age. It was Jewish law.
And there's like a special coin for it?
That they had to pay. Yeah, half a shekel. I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 drachmas is a half a shekel.
Let's verify that because I don't want to say anything wrong. Temple tax. 2 drachma. Yes. 2 drachma. You're right. Any other questions? Any other questions? I think we're good. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay. Here's just what I want to do, because something that continually I can do is I can come here, I can teach you guys Jesus, and you guys can go in school tomorrow and be like, hey, do you know what the 2 drachma tax is? And nobody will say yes. And you guys can feel really cool because you know maybe now. But that's not Christianity. That's not knowing Jesus. That's not knowing God. So I can tell you these things, and it doesn't mean you know God. Colin, where are those posters from this Sunday?
Did we bring those back up?
Colin did. Like a boss.
Thank you,
Oh, you're a
Colin.
man, Colin. You want
Okay. Yeah, just bring them
So I
to
kind of didn't even remember about them. I put them back out in the hallway.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Give it up for Colin, everyone. Okay. Here. I want to just try to make this basic for you guys. Just talk about Christianity for what Christianity is and what it isn't. Okay? So, for example, Christianity, being a Christian, does not mean you know all the Bible. Does not mean you know all the verses. Does not mean that you know Jewish law. That's not what Christianity is. It's good to know those things if you're a Christian. God says meditate on His Word day and night. So we should. We should know about it. We should. It's a command. Meditate on it. He's not saying if you have time, meditate. He says meditate on His Word day and night. But just because I teach this and you guys know it doesn't mean you're a Christian. Here's what Christianity is about. Christianity is about, if you're fearful, God gives you security. Okay? And I'm just going to give some examples today, just so you guys can relate a little bit. Okay, fearful. What can we be fearful about? What? Storms?
Doctors.
What about more personal things in our life? Not so much basics, like not so much Loch Ness Monster if we're swimming in the ocean. Like,
Fear would be like you're talking to your friend and they start bashing your faith, and then you get scared that you're going to lose a friendship if you say anything about your faith and like stand up for it.
Exactly. That is a great point, which leads into my personal story about fear. Here's what happened one time when I was working at the grocery store. I worked at a grocery store for 8 years. My manager knew that I was a Christian, so she would often try to provoke my faith. She would often try to embarrass me, make me feel stupid. And most of the time, I was fearful, and I backed down because she was my manager. I didn't want to offend her. I was fearful of man. The Bible says, do not fear man, for man will die. Spoiler alert, everyone in this room is going to die. Okay? So I shouldn't fear this coworker. So she comes up to me one night at work, and she goes, Andrew, speaking of moving mountains, Andrew, can your God create a boulder so big that he himself cannot move? No? So there's a limit to God's power?
It's a contradiction either way you answer.
Catch 22. So I wrestle with this, and I'm like, yeah, no. She goes, see, Christians just can't say I don't know. So I was fearful, and I was like, yeah, you're right, whatever. All of a sudden, God showed me a little security in him, grew my faith. I talked to some men of God about this question. Man of God gave me something to ask her. So I go into the work after I meet up with this one Christian guy, and I say, hey, you asked me that question about God creating a mountain so big he couldn't move. Let me ask this question. Have you stopped beating your mother?
Beat your mom?
She was like, no. I was like, you haven't. You better. She was like, yeah. I was like, why'd you beat her in the first place? It's a catch-22. Either answer, I can ridicule her. Jesus will give you security, so when you face fearful things in your life, not so much storms and stuff, but he will give you peace. He can give you peace. I'm just a living example of it. I don't deserve his grace. I don't deserve his mercy. Nobody in this room does. How about greed? We want more, right? We want more? Okay. What are greedy things we can do? Yeah.
Beg for money.
Beg for money? That can be kind of seen as greedy. Anything else? Yeah.
Like on Christmas Day, you want all these presents and everything, but half the kids in America don't even get the chance to have a Christmas, and we get like 20 presents a day.
Exactly.
So it's like
you want more. You want more. That's what greed's all about. So how about? And I'm glad you brought up Christmas presents. It's like you read my mind today. How about little Andrew being greedy? And this is prior to Christ. When I was young, even your age, every Christmas I wanted more. I wanted more. I wanted more. One Christmas morning, Christmas is supposed to be a time with family, right? All this other stuff, right? Well, I'm actually your age, senior-ish. Every year from when I was a kid, on Christmas morning, I would look my mom in her eye and I would say, Mom, this was the best Christmas ever. I got greedier and greedier. I was still a little simple kid, right? So all of a sudden this Christmas, I go down steps. She'd always put the presents under the tree. We have a little small house, so it looked always full. I go down the steps, there's like half as many presents there. I'm like, okay. So we pass out presents, we distribute them, we open them up. I'll be honest, guys, I was disappointed. I was like, whatever. I didn't tell my mom that it was the best Christmas ever. To this day, she remembers it. It hurt her feelings. It ruined her day because I was so greedy. In Christ, I don't even have a Christmas list anymore. You want to bless me with something? Praise God. If you don't, that's fine. Ask Taylor. She even said this year, so hard to buy for you. What do you want? I don't know. Buy me whatever. I don't care. I don't need it. How about pride? How about pride? What can we be prideful about? A lot of different things. How about me selling my t-shirt over the internet for 20 bucks a pop to people in different countries? It's okay. I can reset. To people in different countries and trying to make money off that with my name on the t-shirt. It's all about me. That's prideful. That's prideful. What happens? Humility. Don't sell t-shirts anymore. I don't have a donation link on my YouTube thing anymore because it's all about God. I know my reward's in heaven. I don't need no earthly money. What about stress? School? Stressed out leads to depression. How about, actually I'm gonna save that one. How about sorrow, hate? Okay. How about we just do these three real quick? So we got hate,
Yay, I'm hate.
sorrow,
Tasha.
and stress. How about this reality for all those people in the room? Hate, sorrow, and stress. How about this? Year 2007 in my life. November 3rd. I'm in a relationship. The girl is going to give the engagement ring, because she was engaged, back to her fiance. And on the way to give her the ring back at 8 p.m. at night, she gets hit by a drunk driver and dies. Stressed out, sorrowful, led to depression, hated a lot of things. I said I didn't question God, but I did. Didn't understand. Her life, no longer there. I get a call. Hey, she's being airlifted to UC hospital. Crying. Long story short, go to UC. Everybody's there. Her mom kept calling her phone. She didn't want to believe it. Finally, someone answers her phone. Her mom says, "She's okay. She's alive." And the guy on the phone was like, "Actually, I'm an officer. She didn't make it to UC. She's not going to be there. She's down here if you want to come." Her mom collapses on the ground in tears. I'm in tears. Sorrow. That's real life sorrow, guys. That's stress. That's hate. I had a lot of hateful feelings towards the guy who did it, because here's the thing. He already gotten 2 other DUIs. A week later, he was seen at a party drinking. He didn't come out with a scratch at all. That's hate. That's evilness inside me. All of a sudden, God works in me. God changes me. Here's the thing. Love and pray, because I know Samantha went to heaven. Love and pray that this guy goes to heaven. Don't be stressed out, but have peace that I'm still alive and still can glorify God. Don't hate, but just love. Love to be here. Don't be sorrowful, but joyful. Look who he's blessed me with. Right? Don't be... God has a plan. So we'll face life, and you guys have faced all these emotions. Things are going to happen. Whether you're a Christian or not, things are going to happen. You can be a Christian and have forgiveness and understand God has a will. You can not be a Christian, be lost, and when things like this happen, you lead to depression and suicide because you don't know what to do. You think that's the end of life. If you understand Jesus, you understand He has a plan. If you understand Jesus, you understand not to go that route. I didn't get it exactly. So after Samantha passed away, I did a lot of stupid stuff, just trying to fill this hole in my heart, thinking, oh, well, maybe other girls is what I need. No, that doesn't work. Maybe drinking a little bit is what I need. No, that doesn't work. It never works. It all runs out. It all runs out. You never can meet someone who doesn't know Jesus and they'll tell you, yes, I'm a drunk. Yes, I do drugs. Yes, I have sex all the time and I'm the happiest person in the world. You won't meet that person. Michael Jordan just turned 50 not too long ago. If you want to read an interesting article, read his article. Turns 50, greatest basketball player of all time. Kobe Bryant's a good argument, but we're not going there. Greatest basketball player of all time. He has his own shoe, has his own clothing, has it all, right? Has his own yacht. He talks about, in an article, they say, how does it feel to turn 50? He says, miserable. I am miserable. I have all the money in the world. I go out vacations on my yacht by myself, and I get drunk every day. I wake up, I drink, I smoke a little bit, I go to bed. Wake up from a nap, drink some more, eat some more, go to bed. Wake up from then, have a late night drink, late night snack, go to bed. He goes, I'll do this for weeks at a time. He goes, I'm miserable. Doesn't have Jesus. If you have Jesus, you're fine. So to think, oh, if I just had a little bit more money, I'll be fine. False. Oh, if I had some more girls in my life or the right girl, I'll be fine. False. You need Jesus. Jesus is the core. You have Jesus, you realize nothing else is important. Paul writes, I count everything as a loss to know in Jesus. Everything as a loss to know in Jesus. My car, loss to know in Jesus. My job, loss to know in Jesus. It's all about Him. That's what life's about. You try other things, and I know you guys will. I did. They won't satisfy. You'll end up depressed. You'll end up calling me. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. Hey, you were right. Pick me up. I need help. That's what happens. Don't do it. So when I pray for you guys, I pray that you really turn to Jesus and really believe that He can cover all of this. All right. We got time. We got 7:36. I'm going to tell you this little story, then we'll have about 30 minutes to play a game. I'm going to get a drink of water. So everyone just chill. Nobody stand up. No.
Before you go,
Yeah.
how do you feel about Julius Randle?
It's amazing.
How amazing is it though?
Basically,
He's close, Rudy.
I just
You
thought-
better quit giving me dirty looks. I'm gonna come over on your bus and I'm gonna sit on the throw you out the window.
Good one said
go
that if
ahead.
anybody in this in their class
This little
like
sister
that,
did.
I'm
this
in
year,
his bathroom.
if anybody goes,
This little
like,
sister
they
did.
think
Did he
they're
or did he
right
not
there,
say don't
they
stand
feel
up?
retarded or much as they
I
said.
could use the bathroom.
What's
When
that ass
Good
again?
one said that.
Okay.
He stood up.
Hero said that.
I knew people were. All right. All right. Who was here last Wednesday? Last Wednesday night. So 50%. You guys remember the story I told about my cousin with the lawnmower?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Got another story
Oh my
Wait.
goodness.
Hold
about
on,
my life.
forget.
Ready? What?
What was the one more one?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay. Ready? Focus, everyone. Focus. Bring it in. So, Paul, the apostle, writes, like I just said, for me to know Christ is everything. To me, to live is Christ. To live is for Jesus. To die is even better, because then I'm with him in heaven. Philippians 1, chapter 1, verse 21. That's what it says. For me to live is Christ, to die is gain. Paul says, I count all loss to know in Jesus. To know in Jesus. So let's take it back to your age. All right? Let me take it back to your age. Eighth grade year, I lose my dog. My dog died. I can get in the story about how it died, but it's not relative to the story. But her name was Bambi. She was a black lab. She died. We were depressed. Me and my brother were super depressed because it was a family dog. The dog had been with us since we were little. In fact, the morning that Bambi died, I'll never forget this, because when things in life happen, you remember exactly the image where everything was. I'm eating my Fruit Loops, and a Fruit Loop bounces off and hits Bambi. Now I take another bite, and I'm thinking, okay, Bambi, how come you didn't eat that? You always do. She's dead. It was awful. As an 8th grade, that ruins a day. that ruins a long time. So I go into school depressed, blah blah blah. Long story short, a classmate of mine had full-blooded Shelties. Well, the dogs got together, figured that one out, and they have puppies. Okay?
Your dog and that dog? Oh.
No, this classmate. My dog's
She
dead.
was dead.
Well, I
So
was just,
stop bringing Bambi up, okay?
Joel, I'm pretty sure
with you?
if something gets pregnant and another thing dies, it's still gonna be pregnant and have the thing.
No. So my dog dies. A classmate of mine has 2 Shelties, male and female. They have puppies. Okay? This classmate of mine and her mom, they realized how devastated me, my brother, my mom's a teacher at the school, how upset we all were. We just lost our dog. So they willingly give us a free full-blooded Sheltie. Now these dogs can be expensive. They're like the Lassie dog. Real cute dog. I'll never forget the day after school my mom said, look, Mrs. So-and-so said we can come over and they're going to give us a dog, right? I was like, are you serious? Let's do this. So we go, we pull up to the house, they're outside. She actually has a sign where she's selling them, but she's giving us this one. So we go up and she's like, feel free to pick whichever one's out. And people are like there about to buy these dogs. She's like, but you better hurry. So we're looking around and I pick one up and I like fell in love with it. I'm like, this one. And my mom's like, keep looking. I was like, all right. So I set it back down and like that one just kind of like sat. And I think that's why I liked it, because all the other ones were like jumping around and that kind of annoyed me a little bit. So I was like, this one's fine. She's like, no. So there's this other one and he's jumping like crazy. And my mom's like, I think that one's perfect for you and your brother. Get that one. And the lady's like, oh, Hoss? It's like, his name's Hoss? She's like, yeah. I was like, all right, I'll rename him. But yeah, so I get Hoss. We get to keep Hoss. We talk to her about food and whatever kind had the shots or whatever that they needed at that point, but still needed shots. So I take Hoss home. I'm in my living room and I'm playing with Hoss right after school. My dad doesn't get off work till like 5:30 at this point. My brother's in high school. I think he was at academic team at the time. Don't laugh, I was on academic team. So he isn't home yet. So I'm in my living room and I'm playing with Hoss. Now Hoss is excited. Of course, I just told you that story where it's going nuts with a bunch of people there. Imagine me and my mom in my living room just playing with Hoss. Hoss is jumping up and down like he's having a good time. First thing I say, okay, we need to rename this dog. I'm looking at him. He's cute. He's brown, white. Let's go with Copper. So we come up, Copper's his name, little Copper Joe Bishop. Yes, middle name. Don't make fun of me.
That's excellent.
So, yeah. So, Copper, so me and Copper are playing. We're having a good time. My mom's like, that name's perfect. She's like, he really loves you. You can tell. Because, you know, he's a little dog. So, just think about this. A little baby dog has its first interaction with someone who's showing them attention, showing them love, spending time with them. And the dog grows close to me. As the first one to initiate contact, I'm spending time with this dog. This dog and me are tight now, right? So all of a sudden, now this dog wasn't like a miniature baby. He was bigger, but he was still small. So my dad gets home at work at 5:30, and he's like, "Where's he at?" You know, my dad loves dogs. It's like his best friend. Dog's man's best friend or whatever. So my dad comes in, and he gets down, and he's playing with Copper. Matt's home at this time. He's playing with Copper. And my dad says to me, he goes, "Andy, let's take him for a walk." I'm like, yes, let's do that. But we had Bambi's old leashes. Now, Bambi was a bigger dog, but we still had that leash. So what we did is we put it around little Copper's neck, and we just kind of did a double round, just so it would be tight enough, but not choking it. So all of a sudden, my dad's like, "What do you want to go, up or down the street?" I was like, "Let's let Copper decide." And so Copper's just like nuts. He goes up the street. So my dad and I walk up the street with Copper Joe. And we're walking up, and there's fire hydrants, so it kind of runs, and then the neighbor dog starts barking. So then we're like, "Oh, let's go back down this way." So we go back down the street, and now we're in front of my house, and my dad says, "What do you want to do? Do you want to keep walking down the street, or do you want to go in? Do you think Copper's had enough?" And of course, I'm young, I'm like your age, I'm like, "Yeah, let's keep walking," right? So we keep walking, and we're walking, and all of a sudden, and I'll never forget this, my dad walked him up the street. He let me walk him down the street. So it was just kind of like that feeling that I own it. You get it? Like, Copper's mine. I'm in control here. Okay? I have the leash. If I yank that dog, it's going this way. If I yank the dog that way, it's going that way. So I'm walking Copper Joe, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm young. I'm fit at the time. I'm fit. I'm like, I'm going to run Copper. Me and Copper are going to run, and I'm going to beat this dog. It's young, but I think I got size on him, so I'm going to get him, right? So all of a sudden, I'm walking with my dad. I'm like, "Dad, I'm going to walk Copper, or I'm going to run with Copper." He's like, "All right, just don't go too fast or whatever." So I start running with Copper. So me and Copper start running down the street, and like, bro's keeping up with me. Like, Copper is like legit right there. So I run a little faster. I'm like, I'm not going to get smoked by this dog, right? So all of a sudden, I'm running. Uh-oh.
The dog came out of the leash.
The leash flies up in the air. And there's no Copper. Now, like I said, my dad got home at 5:30 after playing with the dog. The sun's going down. So it's kind of nighttime now. It's nighttime enough for cars to have their lights on. So the leash is in the air, but I don't notice that at first. My dad goes, "Aunt!" That's what he says. That's what the people call him. "Aunt!" I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "Where's Copper?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I look down. Copper's not by my side. Okay, so just visualize. I have control of Copper. Copper's going my way, the way I want him to go. He's close to me because I own him. He's mine. Okay, all of a sudden, he's not there. Okay, now, the dog's first reaction is probably like, "What do I do? I'm free. I can do whatever I want." So, I'm looking for Copper. I can't find Copper. My dad can't find Copper. We're on the sidewalk. We look out in the middle of the street, there's Copper. I live on a busy street, a very busy street. So naturally I say, "Copper, come here, boy." He doesn't do anything. So I call out to him, he ignores me. But he doesn't know his new name yet. He knows Hoss. He doesn't know Copper. But I try to call him out, I say, "Copper, come here." Copper doesn't come. My dad's like, "Copper, get over here." Copper doesn't come. All of a sudden, Copper starts running up the street where our house was. Their instincts, dog's instinct, would be to go back to the place where they somewhat knew. But he was still confused. So he runs up the street in the middle of the street. All of a sudden, I'm screaming, "Copper, no! Copper, no!" I start running. All of a sudden, I see bright lights. And I'm like, uh-oh. So my dad starts screaming. My dad's like, "Copper!" And I'm like, "Copper, no!" And so I run, and naturally, I love this dog. I've only known it this one day, though. I want to protect this dog. I go out in the middle of the street. I have my hands up, and I'm like, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" stop! And the car can't hear me because the windows are up, so this car keeps coming down, and Copper keeps going right towards it. Right towards it. So I yell, I'm screaming, stop, stop, stop. By the grace of God, the car stops. I run up and I grab Copper and I hug him. And I grab him close to me. I'm like, Copper, how could he run away? He doesn't know better, but I'm like, Copper, I love you. I don't want you to get hurt. Don't do that. Don't do that. The car just kind of winds off, and I'm carrying Copper back up, and I just have him close to me because he ran astray, but I saw him. I knew. I followed him. I saw what was going to happen to him, and I tried to prevent it. By the grace of God, it was prevented. That's what our walk in Christianity is like. Because let me tell you guys something. You will go astray. You're not going to be confined to a leash. You do have limited free will. So you're going to be at those parties Friday nights. You're going to be going away, and God's going to see you. He's going to say, stop. Don't run. Don't go towards that stuff that can harm you. There's a car coming your way that can kill you. Don't do it. Here's the question, though. Is it going to stop? Is that car going to stop for you? Like it stopped for Copper? Or is it possible that that drug or that whatever could kill you? And then where's your chance? God's there. God can see it all happening. But what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Like I said at the beginning of this, Paul says, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. So even if you're a Christian and you believe in Jesus and you just kind of go astray, but you know Jesus, sin in life is going to come at you. And here's the thing. You might get killed, but you're in a better place. My fear is for those people who don't know Jesus and are just running towards traffic just like Copper blindly. Because here's the thing, God rescue you. You've had these addictions. Maybe you've tried this drug, done this, drank a little bit, whatever, and you haven't been killed. Something tragic hasn't happened. Praise God. Because let me tell you, you keep going that way, traffic's going to keep coming at you. It doesn't stop on the avenue. It's not going to stop in your life. It's not. Things are going to be coming at you fast. What's your protection?